Hey, everybody out there. This is Scotty, and I'm here with our buddy Colby of Colby Does Horror.
What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be back, I guess.
Yes, we're glad to have you back. So nobody's confused. This is what's happening. Back in June, Andrew and I started our Patreon, and pretty quickly, I wanted to get an episode out. As will be explained in this episode you're about to listen to, I gave my buddy Colby a call, and I said, "Hey, do you want to talk about this movie, The Coffee Table?" And you said,
Of course I do.
"Of course you do." So, but here's the thing. We talk about what's going on with you at the beginning of this podcast.
hmm
We introduce you, but this was back at the beginning of June.
hmm
A lot's happened with you since then, so I would like to give you the opportunity to let everybody else out there know who is Colby, what is Colby Does Horror, and what have you been doing since June? What's going on with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot has for sure changed since June. I started a podcast and a TikTok in March, April, May, I want to say. Yeah,
Yeah,
May, I want to say.
it was close because April was when you and I first chatted for the very first time.
hmm
So May sounds about right.
Yeah, so I just started a podcast and a TikTok, and I started the TikTok just to kind of like get my podcast out there. Not thinking it would go anywhere, maybe get like 200 followers if I'm lucky. But my TikTok and my Instagram just kind of blew up with me doing movie reviews of horror movies, of course. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I just got back from Fantastic Fest. It's kind of surreal, like how everything's happening right now, honestly.
You have a new podcast, right?
Yes, I do.
And what is that one called?
So when I first started, we had the Horror House podcast, and there's just a bunch of issues. Like the original host I started it with, like we're still really good friends. He just had a lot of stuff come up, so kind of fell out. But I met a few people on TikTok, and we kind of conjoined our podcast. So our podcast is called The House of Ghouls. It is run by me and my friend Ian Van Gool. So you can check that out. We've got a bunch of cool celebrities we interview all the time. I have an interview with Lauren Lavera scheduled for next week.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
That's amazing, dude.
it's crazy. Like I made so many cool connections at Fantastic Fest as well. So there's a lot more big news events on the horizon for me.
That's awesome, man. Dude, and you still have your TikTok and it's
Yeah,
Colby Does Horror, correct?
yep, yeah. My TikTok and Instagram are both Colby Does Horror. You can find me there. I'm usually really good at responding to comments. I'm good at responding to trolls as well. I get a lot of those. But it's yeah.
Including me.
But no, it's been fun. Like I love it. I'm doing what I love. And it's like honestly becoming like a reality that I can do this for a living very soon.
That's amazing. So it's I mean, not to be too personal, but it's profitable right now.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Look at you go. Look at you go. You were just a wee lad who sent me a message one day like, "Hey, I really like your podcast."
Yeah.
And why the hell is this Serbian film podcast about Cats, the musical? And then you had your own podcast and now you're like famous.
Yeah, it was the weirdest part about Fantastic Fest was I'm with all these huge creators there. Like I was literally the first person that got noticed. Like so like we were in the lobby for maybe less than 2 minutes and somebody came up and was like, "You're Colby Does Horror." And I was like, that is crazy. But yes.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, having people like recognize me and stuff now, I love it. It's fun.
That is fun. That's awesome, dude. And I've told you, I've watched a few horror
Mhm.
talkers. I think you call yourselves, right?
Yeah.
That's what the kids are all saying these days. You crazy kids. And you're honestly one of my favorites. You're one of the ones I enjoy watching. You know, you've got a really chill but exuberant vibe to
Mhm.
all your videos. And it cracks me up that your favorite horror movie of the year changes from week to week.
It does. It does. The last one I just hyped up was Beazle, and
Yes.
it's about a witch. Did you check that one out yet?
No. What's it
So
on? Where can I watch it?
that one is on Amazon Prime, but like you
Okay.
can rent on Amazon Prime. But I just watched another witch movie, and it made Beazle look silly. So I don't know how I'm gonna hype this one up without looking stupid because this was this movie that I just watched is gonna be this year's When Evil Lurks.
Okay. So you're not going to say what it is. It's we're keeping it under wraps right now.
I can say what it is. I just can't like give my reviews about it yet. But
Well,
this
you already did.
I can't like go way in depth into it, but it's called I Will Never Leave You Alone, and it will be releasing on the 18th of October.
And real quick before we go and start the actual episode, what was your favorite movies that you saw at Fantastic Fest?
My personal favorite movie was Terrifier 3, the world premiere for Terrifier 3. It was one of the most fun experiences that I've ever had. But the best movie, in my opinion, was a little gem called Strange Harvest. And it was written and directed by Stuart Ortiz, who you would know from the creator of Grave Encounters.
Right on. And that's a mockumentary from what you said. Okay. So I'm looking forward to both of those. We're doing Terrifier 3 next, the week after this episode comes out. Andrew's going to come into town. We're going to watch Terrifier 3, and then we're going to review it while he's here. So that's our next episode. So that'll be really cool.
I can't wait to hear that one.
Well, Colby, thank you for jumping in here for this quick intro. Even though you're also part of this entire episode that everybody's going to be about to hear, that everybody's going to whatever I'm trying to say, everybody's going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And you're part of it. And this was our very first Patreon episode. So thank you again for being a part of that. And congratulations, my friend, on all the success that you've had. I'm super proud of you, dude.
Thank you. And you've been supporting me since day one. So that means the world to me already. And I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I have been since I heard it. And if you ever want me to come back on, I am more than happy.
Funny you say that, Colby, because the other thing I want to say before we start this is that on Patreon, we've got a whole bunch of exclusive episodes. We've got some subscribers that get to hear them. If you're not subscribed, it's $5 a month. And eventually, Colby and I will actually be doing a series of episodes sporadically. And those episodes will be called Too Extreme for Andrew. And those are going to be movies that Andrew and I may not want to talk about on the main podcast because they're pretty rough. They're pretty extreme. But Colby and I, we're big fans of watching extreme movies. So we're gonna check some of them out and we're gonna talk about them. So I think the first one that we'll talk about, and hopefully not too far away, is a movie called Circus of the Dead.
I'm more than happy.
Yeah. So everybody, if you're a patron, you will definitely be hearing Colby much more often. Without further ado, here is Colby and myself talking about The Coffee Table, one of the most anxiety-ridden movies of the year. Hold on to yourselves.
Oh, actually, we don't do that here. This is an installation art piece.
This coffee table?
Yes, we don't put drinks on it.
You're listening to the Fun with Horror podcast with your hosts, Scotty and Andrew.
Hello and welcome to the very first patron-only episode of Fun with Horror. I am joined not by Andrew, my beautiful best friend, but Colby Keith of the Horror House podcast. Colby has done me the great honor of guesting on this very special episode for this very special movie, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Colby, how are you?
I'm doing great, Scotty. I really appreciate you having me on today. I've been listening to for a few months now, so this is pretty exciting for me.
We were just talking about it, but I remember there was that day that you sent me an instant message. So people out there, if you have a podcast and you just send me an instant message and we start shooting the shit, you never know. You might become a guest host on an episode. But yeah, you sent me a message and it was super kind, and you just kept listening to episodes and talking to me about them. And then you started your own podcast.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
So I am one of the hosts at the Horror House podcast. We are mainly a themed podcast where we pick a theme, we pick our favorite movies, talk about the theme, But lately we've been getting a lot of guest directors, special effects people. So it's been pretty busy. We started as a bi-weekly podcast, but we've had to switch to weekly. A couple times we've had to release 2 episodes a week just because we're so backed up with everything and so busy lately. So, but it's going good. I mean, we've been doing it now for I think 3 months we started, I want to say. But no, we're having a blast, meeting a lot of people, just having a lot of fun.
Didn't you? So you have a TikTok too, and your
Yes.
TikTok is kind of blowing up.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I started my TikTok just to get my podcast out there, like review movies. Maybe if people like how I talk about movies, then they'll give the podcast a listen to. But honestly, I've been having so much fun with the TikTok. I've made so many friends on there. The horror community can be a very toxic place in some social media platforms, but I think TikTok is easily one of the most supportive in the horror community that I've been a part of so far.
I think the only toxic place I've experienced is the subreddit, the horror subreddit.
Really?
Yeah, have you been there?
No, I was going to say Facebook. I've seen a lot of toxicity on Facebook.
I'm very selective about the groups that I've joined.
Mhm.
I'm only in, I think, 3. There's 2. One is run by another podcast. There's another one that a friend of mine who has also been a longtime listener of Fun with Horror. He started this group a long time ago, and it's one of the best Facebook horror groups ever. I'll probably let you know about that one because I think you'd like
Send
it.
me a message about that one. I'm in this really cool one called Fun with Horror.
Yeah, that's the third one, which I've heard of too. And it's, it's fun. It's mostly we just talk about the podcast, but once in a while we have some members who like to post some things like movies they're watching and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I love that. So yeah, it's a fun community, but
For sure. I haven't been on Facebook barely at all since I've been in Discords. I'm in the Discord with you. So that's mainly where I talk about horror, that and TikTok.
yeah, you are, as you said, in the Fun with Horror group. And I've seen you like a couple posts, which is nice.
Appreciate it.
And you were, I believe, let me think, you were the third person to join our Patreon, our brand new Patreon.
Hell yeah.
So there you go. Congratulations. Thank you so much, by the way, for joining.
Of course, as soon as you said that, I was like, I'm going to do it instantly.
Awesome. So the reason we're doing this episode, there's a few reasons, okay? The main reason I texted you frantically last night, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Let's do an episode. Was because I started the Patreon. I made it public last night and then posted about it today. And I wanted to have an episode soon to give people a reason, and because that's the main thing. I want to give our patrons something special. And so thank you again for coming on and doing this with me, especially with such short notice. So
Absolutely. And I definitely think this would be the best movie to do it with because this, for a lot of people, this is only a one-time watch movie. So that you have it in your brain ready to go right now, I think it's perfect.
well, I'll be honest, for a lot of the Fun with Horror listeners, I think this might be a no time watch. I think maybe they'll just listen to this instead of watching the movie, which I'm totally fine with. We definitely have a few listeners that have told us actually, that they listen to our podcast because they're scared to watch the movies. Our podcast is like, quote unquote, a safe place to learn about these movies and to experience these movies without having to go through watching them,
Right. And I think that's why I like your podcast too, because it's like kind of a getaway because all I listen to is horror podcasts, but yours is still like a getaway. It's like a good feel. It's like a good time podcast. Like it makes me feel good.
Thank you. Well, that's what we go for.
Yeah, exactly. You're hitting the spot.
I mean, that's honestly, I've talked about it in the podcast itself. That's why we started the podcast, because when Andrew and I talk to each other, that's the feeling we give each other. After we talked about one movie on the phone, we said, hey, let's do this. Let's record this and make a podcast because this is so much fun. We just hope that other people like you and other people would listen to it and have fun with us. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. So, but the other reason we're doing this movie and the reason I invited you on here specifically is because I got a text at the beginning of this week from Andrew
Hmm.
And out of nowhere, no prompting whatsoever, he's like, "Hey, buddy, I just read a synopsis for the coffee table, and I just want to let you know that I don't think I can do that."
Yeah.
He was just preempting me in case I felt like picking the movie. He was like, "No, I just wanted to let you know." And I was like, "Well, I wasn't planning on picking it anyway because I've heard it's kind of brutal." But then that got my curiosity up. So I watched the movie the next night,
Hmm.
and then I jumped into the Discord that we're all in. I immediately was targeting you.
Yeah, you tagged me instantly.
Yeah, I was like, dude, okay, I watched this movie that you love, and I don't know what to think about it.
I love that though. A lot of times, like right when we watch a new movie, I know I seek you out for one of the first people I talk to, and I've noticed that you've sucked me out a few times too. So I like that.
I also know you watch these movies before a lot of other people,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of that's mostly because of you, but also because of your TikTok.
Right.
Because once again, everybody, if I haven't said it, go listen to the Horror House podcast. Go subscribe or follow them on TikTok because Colby is constantly doing movie reviews of these indie movies, and that's how you've gotten in contact with some of these directors. You just interviewed the director of
Frogman.
Frogman. Yes,
Yep.
I see the poster behind you.
Yeah, I haven't changed it because the interview the other day.
You interviewed the director of Frogman, which is kind of there's been some buzz.
Yeah, it's kind of a booming indie movie right now. It just got announced for a sequel this past week as well. So,
Found footage, right?
yep,
Yeah.
my favorite subgenre.
It's one of mine for sure. It's the one that scares me the most. I can tell
Yeah,
you that
me
much.
too.
So I need to see that movie. Everybody out there, like I said, go follow the Horror House podcast everywhere because Colby's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you're about to find out why. So let's get into the coffee table.
You know where you belong. On top of me in the Poconos. Instead, you're here selling dirty coffee tables? I mean, look at this. This is nonsense.
Terry, this is an original Haverfield Jameson. The chaos of the coffee table, it represents our fractured egos.
You think I don't know about this artsy-fartsy crap? This coffee table isn't the ego. It represents our shattered sense of community in the face of capitalist-driven isolation. Much like the work of Cindy Sherman or Frank Stella.
The coffee table, or La Mesita del Comedor, was directed by Caye Casas, and it stars David Pareja as Jesus, Estefanía de los Santos as Maria, Josep Maria Riera as Carlos, and Claudia Riera as Cristina. It was written by Caye Casas and Cristina Borobia. And before we get into this movie, we're just going to warn everybody out there listening to this that, yes, we are going to spoil the coffee table. Now, with this movie, you may not mind it being spoiled for you. If you do, this is your warning that you can turn this off right now and go do other things, maybe play some pinochle, and then watch the movie and then come back and listen to us. So, but without further ado, guess what, Colby?
What's that?
As our guest, as my guest, as the guest of Fun with Horror, you get to do the 3-minute recap.
I was so excited for this, and I was hoping I was going to have the honor for it.
That's good because most people are terrified. So, wow, what's going to happen? So, see, normally Andrew and I come up with funny things, but I don't know if there's anything funny about this movie to say that will happen to you. Let's put Colby. Let's just make it simple. If you don't come in under 3 minutes, then I'm going to make you jump off a balcony.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm
And
cool with
everybody
that.
who's seen the movie will understand. All right. So whenever you're ready, go for it. Tell us what this movie's all about.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
All right. So Jesus and Maria, they are brand new parents. In the very beginning, they're shopping for furniture, and Maria and Jesus, they're looking at a coffee table, and Maria wants nothing to do with it. So Jesus talks her into it. He kind of guilt trips her into it, I guess you can say. So he gets this coffee table. They bring it home. Maria wants to go out shopping. So Jesus stays home with their baby, their brand new baby. Baby won't stop crying. Jesus.
Wait a second. I'm just going to tell people right now, trigger warning.
Oh,
Okay. So if if harm to newborns, if you haven't seen this movie and you're triggered by harm to newborns, babies, just here we go. Just your warn. This is your warning. This movie gets bad. Okay, go for it. Sorry.
So Jesus accidentally drops the baby, and the baby gets decapitated. It feels so weird saying it, by the coffee table. And this entire movie is just building dread and tension, and it's done so well, but he doesn't call the police, paramedics, doesn't call Maria. He just wraps the baby up in a blanket, puts it in its crib, and leaves it there the entire movie. So Maria comes home, he's sweating, he's scared, doesn't say anything. She wants to go check on the baby. He stops her multiple times. So later that day, Jesus' brother and his girlfriend, they come over for dinner, and just tension and dread building the entire movie. So his brother finally sees what something's going on, and Jesus caves in and tells him. So that's when things get really crazy in this movie. There is also, I forgot to mention, a 13-year-old girl that's obsessed with Jesus that lives above them. She ends up walking in. She sees the baby's decapitated head under the chair, and that's when it just sets everything off. The mom jumps off the balcony. Jesus jumps off with her, and it pretty much just drives the brother mad. And the ending scene is the brother in the back of a police car just repeating the coffee table.
Right. We don't hear him, but
The police or paramedics, that's what they say.
yeah. So, well, you came in well under 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's a very easy movie to explain because
Yeah.
just what this movie's about.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, yeah, this isn't a complicated movie to explain to somebody, but
Not at all.
it has some complicated stuff. Now, how many times have you seen this movie?
I've watched it twice. The first time, my wife and I watched it together, and we knew nothing about it. We saw the horror bandwagon guys talk about it, and they said, we heard this is a messed up movie, so I went in completely blind, no trailer, no nothing. So we started it. When that scene happened, my mouth was just on the floor, and I look over at my wife, and she's just straight-faced. I was like, that didn't shock you? She's like, no, I just read the synopsis, so I knew it was going to happen. So she knew. So she was waiting for my reaction. But that's the thing, though, too, about this movie. That is a very messed up thing that happens, and it's not it's not like extreme. It's off screen. But the thing about this movie that affects so many people is the tension and the dread. My favorite way I've explained it was when I used to get in trouble in school, like hide a bad grade, hide something I did, and just the feeling knowing my parents are going to find out. That's what I felt through this whole movie.
Yeah.
Just that dread.
So I've only seen it once.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure what I thought of this movie, as you know.
Mhm.
Honestly, this movie reminded me of another movie called Speak No Evil,
Right.
in which I finished the movie and I did not like the movie. I thought I hated it. Coffee Table, I didn't think I hated it, but I wasn't sure if I liked it. I wasn't sure if I felt like there was a point to the movie. But something you said when we were chatting kind of resonated with me. And the next morning I woke up and I was still thinking about the movie. And something you talked about how the movie... Okay, let me go back. I mentioned to you that I was filled with a huge amount of anxiety the entire movie. You said then the movie did its job.
Right.
And I realized how true that was the next day. And I realized how perfectly the director in writing this movie, how do I put this? How perfectly they built up your tension before it happened so that everything just built and you just inside your heart, you're just sitting there, you're imagining this happening to you.
Right.
And how you would handle this. And you're wondering if Jesus is handling this the correct way. You're realizing that there is no correct way to handle this.
No.
And that you would not handle this any better than him.
It's just such a powerful movie in that aspect. And it's a very slow burn, but it's meant to be because of all that anxiety they build with it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was done just so brilliantly.
It really is. And let's kind of get into it a little bit. So I like the beginning because the beginning opens with this weird dreamlike sequence of Maria giving birth.
Yeah.
It starts with sound effects. You hear her moaning, and it sounds like she's in pain.
hmm
Sounds like she's upset at something, maybe. And you're wondering if the movie is starting with what has made them upset.
hmm
Why is she screaming in agony? But then you realize she's giving birth.
hmm
And now here's the thing, man. So when Andrew told me that he didn't want to watch this movie, he didn't want to do it for the podcast. It just wasn't his thing. I had no idea what this movie was about.
hmm
No idea.
He didn't tell you anything?
No, not at that moment. I just knew the movie was called The Coffee Table. So I was like, okay, something has to do with the coffee table, and I've heard that it's brutal. So, like, what happens? Does this coffee table drive these people crazy? What's going on in this movie?
Those were my exact thoughts.
Right?
Before I watched it.
So then I go to IMDb for whatever reason, and I see the synopsis, and I see that Jesus and Maria have a newborn baby. And that is what clued me in. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I was like, okay, so Andrew, from what you've read of the synopsis, is this movie more brutal than Martyrs, which Andrew has seen, by the way?
Mhm.
And he's like, no, but the subject matter is why I don't want to watch it.
Right. And I totally respect that.
Yeah, totally understand. Especially with his 1-year-old kid, you know?
Mhm. Especially for a new parent. If I would have read the synopsis, I don't think I would have watched it.
Really?
But the way it happens, though, I thought it was in good taste. It was off screen.
For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, it's off screen. But what rolls under the couch, when the head rolls under the couch, like they make it kind of into a dark comedy as well.
In a way, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But the dark comedy is also what sets up the tension,
Mhm.
right? Because you already have this tension that's built up in the movie at the furniture shop where Jesus and Maria are obviously, they're not doing really well in their relationship.
Right.
They've got a lot of tension already. And she hates the coffee table.
Yeah.
She hates it with a passion. And it is a tacky looking coffee table.
Oh, it's ugly. It's super ugly.
Describe this coffee table to us.
It's like gold. I don't want to say mermaids, but that's my first thought. It's like two gold curved women, and they're holding up the glass. I'm doing the gestures right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm trying to think of it. It's like two women that are made as pillars to hold the glass on the coffee table, and it's
Right.
very ugly. It's a very ugly gold, like rose gold, hideous coffee table.
It's tacky as hell. And the owner of the furniture shop is like this sleazy kind of guy. You know that he's pulling one over on them.
Typical salesman.
Yeah, total salesman. And so you have that. So it's not just a movie about a father accidentally killing their newborn baby.
Mhm.
It's the fact that he killed this newborn baby on this piece of furniture that is like the reason that this couple may actually get divorced, you know?
Right.
There's already this animosity caused by the coffee table.
And I don't think it's just between the coffee table. I think it's them being new parents. They have a lot of this animosity as well. Like there's just a lot of underlining things that are going on in their relationship, I think. But then the coffee table is like just the nail in the coffin.
Oh my God. If you've ever had problems in a relationship, I think we all have.
Mhm.
You feel it. You feel what they're going through.
Yep. That's another reason I was having anxiety. Just everything. The anxiety factor in this is just through the roof.
Yeah, so she goes to the supermarket because she just needs to be alone, and she leaves Jesus alone with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, let's just say here, it's kind of cool. The baby's name is Cayetano.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the movie, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe she named the baby after a bullfighter, right?
Yeah, and he absolutely hates the name.
He hates the name, yeah. So that's also a point of contention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, after the baby's dead, you know, you got to explain to your wife that you accidentally killed the baby. You accidentally did it on this coffee table that she absolutely hates. And believe me, I didn't do it because the baby's name was Cayetano. But the director's name is Caye.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think the director's full name is Cayetano?
I don't know. That's something I want to ask him now.
Yeah, see, you should ask your buddy.
I want to ask him that now.
By the way, Colby told me earlier because of his TikTok and because of his review on TikTok of this movie, he has now kind of befriended the director of this movie. Who else? Name some people. Name drop, buddy.
Also, the director of Terrified and When Evil Lurks.
Damien Rugna.
One of the production companies, yep, Damien Rugna. One of the production companies saw my review and they posted on their page and everything. Maybe a few minutes later, I got this message and I thought it was spam, but then I saw it was like a voice message. So I played it and it was them talking about how much they appreciate and love my review. And it's social media people that help get these indie movies out there, that help make it popular, pick up the traction and everything. So we were talking for a little bit and he's like, how would you like to be in a group text with Damien and Caye? I was like, are you serious? I was like, absolutely. So yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm now connected with them. I tried to get Caye on the show, on my show, to talk about the coffee table, but he doesn't speak very good English. So unless he has like a translator or something,
Yeah.
but I think that'll be a lot of work for him. But no, I made a lot of cool connections with just a little, I think it was like 90-second review I did on a movie.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. When I heard about the coffee table, I did not expect to even want to talk about it
Mm-hmm.
on Fun with Horror because this
It's
movie's
not
anything
fun.
but fun. Right?
I will say I actually, because I watched it twice. I watched it with my wife and we were just like, it stuck with me for like over a week.
Yeah.
And then my sister, who's also on my podcast, I was like, hey, you have to come over and watch this movie with us. And when she watched it, she had my reactions. I enjoyed watching her reactions for her first watch. And upon my second watch with my wife, we were like laughing at my sister's reactions. And I think we had a lot more fun with the dark comedy aspect of the movie this time.
Okay. All
So
right.
it definitely wasn't as bad the second watch. It was still just completely anxiety ridden the whole time. I still felt that anxiety just as much as the first watch, but it was a lot more of a fun watch second time around.
I could totally see that because part of the anxiety on your first watch is not knowing how Jesus is going to handle this from one moment to the other.
Right.
Because as we know, like he's kind of in shock. This is a little graphic, but yes, the head of the baby rolls under the chair and we don't really see it. That's one thing they did really well.
Mhm.
You see some very disturbing visuals for sure.
Mhm.
You see like the baby's body next to the pane of glass, and the pane of glass is right there where the baby's neck would be.
Mhm.
So you can tell the baby's been beheaded.
And I think
But-
that's another thing they do really well is they make, because they don't fully show you everything, so they make you
Yeah.
imagine it in your mind what it actually looks like.
Yeah, right. And then when they show you underneath the chair, they never show you a clear shot of the head. They show you
Mhm.
like there's like a shadow of something
Like this,
under
yeah,
there,
the silhouette of it.
and you know it's there.
Hmm.
Let's go back a little bit because there's also something else that oh, I hated it so much, but I think it's brilliant that the director threw it in. He throws in these neighbors as Jesus is bringing this extremely heavy box up these how many flights of stairs, like 3 or 4?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it.
No, and you know that either it couldn't fit in the elevator or his wife was like, no, you got to carry it up the stairs. I'm not
Mhm.
helping you, you know? But then his neighbors show up, and their neighbors are this mother and her 13-year-old daughter. I don't remember the mother's name, but the daughter's name is Ruth.
Yep.
As he's going in the apartment, Ruth stops him. She's got her little dog with her, and she asks him if he's going to tell his wife about what happened in the elevator. And it's like, and you get the idea that nothing happened in the elevator,
Mhm.
but she's trying to make a big deal out of it. And this little girl is like, what the hell, dude? Like, this little girl gave me anxiety.
Hmm. She definitely did.
She's asking Jesus to go away with her so that they can have sex all the time. And it's this 13-year-old girl. And I'm just like, dude, come on. So yet again, I think it's disturbing as hell, but I think it's brilliant how the director just adds another element of anxiety to the movie.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, you got all the taboos. You got killing a baby. You have underage, the threat or whatever of underage sex, you know.
Hmm.
Ugh. And then Maria comes home, right? And this is where the movie really gets anxiety ridden, right?
another thing before Maria came home, what actually made him stop building the coffee table was he didn't have all the parts when he came home with the table. So he had to sit like the glass pane up,
Yeah.
like horizontally or vertically. So that's another reason there. And then there's a scene later before Maria comes home where the salesman shows up with the parts and he's like trying to come in the apartment and like be friends, and
Yeah.
another just constant anxiety on that part, just
No,
everything.
he's trying to be more than friends.
No.
Remember the sales guy has the hots for Jesus. And that's
Yep.
the other funny thing. Everybody seems to have the hots for Jesus.
Everybody.
Like the neighbor, the mom, she gives him some looks and some sentences, and that furniture store salesman, he totally tries to like hit on Jesus.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
like, I think we have a connection and stuff like that. But yeah, more anxiety, right? For Jesus to
Everything.
handle. I also love how Jesus has like blood on his shirt, like obvious blood, but he just keeps telling people that he was painting
Mhm.
and they believe him.
And another thing I really connected with, like how much Jesus is sweating throughout the whole movie,
Oh my
because that's
God.
when I get nervous, I sweat. So
Yeah.
I was like instantly like, that's me. Like I connected with his character so much in so many ways.
See, as somebody watching the movie, that also gave me an emotion
Hmm.
because the director does a good job of giving you close-ups of Jesus sweating, which
Yeah.
obviously is supposed to make the viewer uncomfortable.
Yes. Like the movie just looked hot and muggy and humid. And it's the best way to explain how it looked.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So he puts the baby's body in the crib
Hmm.
and he leaves the head under the chair, and I'm just like, dude.
Yeah, like
Okay.
he refused to get it. Like I can't, he said I can't do it.
Yeah. And I can't say that this is a thing in a movie where normally you put yourself in people's situations and you're like, oh, they wouldn't do that. But you have no idea. This is such an extreme situation that you have no idea how you would react.
No.
Maybe you would leave it there too. But oh my God. So yeah, Maria comes home and you wonder if he's going to tell her right away. But that becomes the huge point of anxiety for the movie because he doesn't tell her the entire movie.
Hmm.
I don't think, does he tell? Yeah, he tells her at the very end, right? When she
Yeah.
knows.
When
Kind of.
when Ruth's dog finds the head under the
Yeah.
chair, that's what gives everything away.
We're jumping ahead a little bit,
Mhm.
but also,
I
let's keep going with the anxiety here. The table, this is the funny part. The table was supposed to be unbreakable.
Yeah.
That was one of the selling points of this glass coffee table, is that the glass was supposedly unbreakable. We all knew that wasn't going to be true. But that's one thing that happens, I guess, when he drops the baby on this glass table, it does break. And we really don't know exactly how it happened.
Mhm.
We don't know if he tripped, what happened, but he got glass in his hands, so you feel like he fell onto the glass
Yeah.
itself. So anyway, that's part of what you were talking about. Your
Like, you have to-
imagination going
yeah,
crazy.
it makes your imagination fill the gaps.
Ugh. So one of the parts that really got to me was when he puts the baby monitor in the kitchen
Hmm.
and she starts hearing something on it. And she's like, it sounds like something's dripping in the room. And you
Oh.
know right away that it's the blood
Yep.
from the baby dripping on the floor. God, this movie's horrible, man.
It's seeping through the mattress and just drip like a faucet that's not turned all the way off, and it's just hitting the floor, and it's a big puddle by the time he goes in there. And
It's awful. It's awful. But he keeps telling Maria that she can't go in and see the baby because the baby's sleeping and it took him forever to get the baby to sleep. And somehow she's buying this.
Hmm.
This is the only part of the movie I'm not sure I totally bought. I feel like in reality, she would have gone in there at some point earlier than she did.
I think this is probably a span of at least 3 to 4 hours, I want to say, from
Yeah.
when she goes to the store to dinner time. If you've ever had a newborn baby, yes, they sleep all the time, but in spurts. They're not going to sleep that long straight without crying, without anything.
Yeah, but also, even if it is sleeping, right? I mean, I have a cat, and when I had a girlfriend and she was here, if I came home and she was like, oh, and where's Bowie? And she's like, oh, Bowie's sleeping. What do? If she's like, oh, don't go wake her up. You're like, I won't wake her up. And you go look at it, you know?
Mhm.
You do the same thing with your baby. Come on.
Exactly. Especially a newborn.
Especially a newborn. But for the sake of the movie story, I'm able to go with it.
Hmm.
But the other point of anxiety, as the anxiety in this movie continues to build, is that Jesus's brother, Carlos, is coming over with his new young girlfriend, Cristina.
Hmm. They made a point to say that numerous times.
Yeah, that she's like 18.
Yeah.
18?
Yeah, I think it was 18.
They're going to have dinner. And of course, they come over and they want to see the baby, but Jesus won't let them.
Yep.
And beautifully, of course, his brother realizes something's wrong, but he's like, I'm going to give this some time before I question it. And the tension just keeps building and building. And one thing I want to mention, I think it's genius the way Jesus deflects Maria from going in the room
Mhm.
by turning what she sees as his building tension and anxiety as he just loves her.
Mhm.
And they have that moment where he's like, I love you so much. And you know he's being honest. But also Maria thinks he's telling her this because of one reason, but we as the viewers know why he's actually telling her this.
Yeah.
Because he's terrified. He's terrified of what's going to happen when she finds out what happened to the baby.
Exactly.
Because, man, this isn't just about a baby dying, man.
No, not at all.
This is about a baby being beheaded.
And this is kind of skipping. It's kind of around the area, but when they're at the dinner table and they're eating, when he imagines that he's like eating flesh, that really
Yeah.
got to me too.
I wasn't sure what that was. That was you saw it as flesh?
Yeah, I didn't know what that message was. I don't know if it was like flesh or what it was, but because I know that they made like a vegan or vegetarian meal because of the brother's girlfriend.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird, but it just made me feel gross. Like just to add to on top of everything that I'm already feeling.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a weird snippet that they put in there.
Did your chest hurt watching this movie
It
the
did.
first time? Yeah.
It did.
Mine did too. It was just like I was so tense right up here.
My chest hurt. I don't know if I was sweating, but I felt really hot and the AC was on. And I live in Northern Illinois, so it's not very hot out here yet when I saw it. I just
Wow.
the emotions this made me feel and how many of them. This is why I love this movie so much, is just how it made me feel.
And I wasn't sure if I totally agreed with you right after watching it, but the next
Mhm.
morning I realized that I do. Because I'm also the kind of person, I connected with you when you said that, because if a movie makes me feel any strong emotion, I appreciate that.
Mhm. Exactly.
But sometimes I feel like there has to be a point.
Mhm.
And we've been talking about some other quote unquote shocking movies that don't have a point to their shocking nature. It's just purely to shock people. And that's the only thing I don't appreciate.
Yes. I thought the story for this was beautiful. The message, just I thought everything.
Beautiful.
I mean, the way, like I said, the way it made me feel, like it's definitely a very gruesome story, but just the emotions, it just made it like it's something that I'm always seeking, like a feeling like of like a movie. I hope this is the scariest movie I've seen. I hope this is the coolest movie I've seen, goriest movie. And this is definitely the most anxiety ridden movie, I will say. So it's like, as a horror fan, it's like a drug, like seeking certain movies out that makes you feel something like that.
Wait, so you're saying like if a movie makes you feel like because this is not the goriest movie you've seen.
No, not at all.
But you're saying if another movie makes you
Mhm.
feel like, oh, this is the goriest movie I've seen.
Yeah.
You appreciate that.
Yeah, like the sadness.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've done that one.
Yep. Yeah, well, I listened to that episode.
Okay, cool. That's actually one of my favorite episodes that we've done, just because of a joke that Andrew and I make at the end. But
Yeah.
when we do the old man voices.
Yep. But yeah, like the way it made me feel, it's just I've never experienced that in a movie before.
Yeah. No, I've experienced it with other movies in different ways. This movie, in a strange way, reminded me of Uncut Gems. Have you seen that?
Amazing movie. That's my favorite Adam Sandler movie.
But it's another movie. It's not as disturbing as this one, obviously, but it ramps up the anxiety that you
Mhm.
feel throughout the entire movie. It does not let up.
I thought it was a very beautiful but emotional ending.
Yeah. So this movie, the way it made me feel, reminded me of how I felt watching that. Does
I
that make sense?
100% see that. Yep. 100% see that.
So let's get to the kind of the end of this movie, because I know you felt the same way I did watching it. You're wondering, he's got to tell her at some point,
Hmm.
but you also feel like the crap is going to hit the fan.
Yes.
You know, you feel like something is going to happen. Strangely enough, I kept thinking of Ruth, because she said she was going to come tell his wife what was going on if he didn't tell her, blah, blah, blah.
That's funny because I didn't think about Ruth a single time after I saw her the first time. My mind was just on Jesus, Maria, and the apartment. That's all I could think about.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, after he went to their apartment to get the cleaning products, I knew she was going to show back up at some point, and I was like, that's just going to be an add to the anxiety. Like, why are you doing this to me, Caye? Stop it.
Before she shows up, though, the scene that hit me the hardest emotionally was when his brother catches him in the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because this is where it really made me think, because he's making a video for Maria saying, if you're seeing this, I've killed myself because I could not live with your reaction to seeing what happened.
Yeah.
And that's my thought the whole time, was like, I would not be able to like live with, if I accidentally did this and my wife had to see that, I wouldn't be able to live with that. Like, it
Right.
made me and my wife have conversations about like, what the heck would we do if this happened? Like, would we call an ambulance? Like, what, like, we have no idea. Like, you don't know what your body would do in such a situation like that.
Here's some interesting thoughts I had during this movie
Mhm.
before the ending, and tell me if you felt the same way.
Okay.
There's a part where Jesus steps out on his balcony
Hmm.
and he's thinking about jumping. He's thinking about jumping.
Hmm.
Part of me wanted him to jump so that my anxiety would be over.
100% the same feeling.
It was a weirdest feeling. I don't want Jesus to die, obviously,
No.
but I'm like, dude, how is he going to tell her this? If he kills himself, if he jumps off this balcony, she's still got to deal with it when she gets home, but it ends the anxiety of how is he going to tell her?
Right.
And then the other weird emotion, I really appreciate the movie for this one. After the part that you talked about, where his brother hears him in the bathroom,
Hmm.
he obviously tells his brother, and they go into the baby, or the room with the baby, and his brother sees what happened, and he hears Jesus has told him what happened. There was a slight feeling of relief,
Yes. Yes.
because finally Jesus has told somebody, and the burden is not just his anymore. The burden now also belongs to Carlos, and Carlos has assured Jesus that they're going to figure something out.
I thought that was so brilliant. Sorry.
Yeah,
Because
no, please.
it's the feeling of relief right before it ramps up to 110. Because
Yes.
it makes you think that, all right, they're going to figure something out. It's going to be okay from here on out. But then that's when it just goes crazier than it has the entire movie.
I think if I watch this movie a second time, this would be the point where I just have the biggest feeling of dread,
Yep.
because now you know how the movie's going to end.
Hmm.
Now you know that Ruth is going to show up right when they're about to figure out how to tell Maria what happened. No, Ruth is going to show up with her little dog and interrupt everything and start to tell Maria, add to the tension between Maria and Jesus by telling Maria that Jesus kissed her in the elevator, first of all. And you're like, stop it. This stupid little kid.
And then when in reality, it was just Jesus wrote some poems for her, but it was for school.
Okay, let's be realistic here, though. That's what Jesus says.
Hmm.
And we believe Jesus,
Yeah, I do.
but we don't know. Like, maybe he did try and kiss this little girl in an elevator, and we just don't know. The movie never flat out tells us.
Yeah,
sure.
it doesn't tell you. It makes you decide for yourself. And I decided I like Jesus, even though what happened was a freak accident. But I really like that character. I loved Jesus. But yeah, it's just, I think it's when you're that young, you're brand new teenager, your emotions are going wild, your hormones. So you think you're in love, all that. There's just so many different mixed feelings and messages in this movie. It's insane.
I was just gonna say there are so many conversations we could branch off to right
Mhm.
now. You know, like believing somebody just because they're likable and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But we're not gonna go there completely.
Right.
Okay, so I was expecting Ruth to come in. Man, I tell you, I was not until I saw the dog and the movie focus on the dog.
Yeah, I was like, oh no.
I was like, that's when, yeah, it hit me. And the dog obviously starts barking because it sees this head under the chair, and you know the dog is gonna, but it gets worse, man. It gets worse. The dog, when everybody is looking down, going, what is this dog doing? And Carlos is trying to get to the dog to stop it. The dog pulls the head out from under the couch. Again, we don't really see it. We see
Mhm.
hints of it. The movie brilliantly doesn't show us too much, right?
Right, but I love that it showed the mom's reaction. That's the
Yes.
biggest thing. That's what you are scared of the entire movie is the mom finding out, Maria finding everything out. So seeing her reaction, I thought it hit so well.
What happens after this?
So you see the mom's reaction. Carlos's girlfriend starts screaming. He's just completely shocked. I like now that I'm thinking about it, I think like his skin tone even changed when this was going on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't show everything that happens. It just the camera cuts, goes down to floor level outside, and this is I thought this was a very strong ending for me. All you see is like a ghost silhouette of Jesus, Maria, and they're huddled together holding the baby.
Well, wait, did we talk about, so Jesus also, there's the part where Jesus backs up to the table. 'Cause
Oh
Jesus is in
yeah.
shock too. And we see Maria, she's holding the baby's head.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot about that.
She takes the baby's head, I think from Carlos, and she's holding it and she just starts to walk out to the balcony.
Mhm.
Jesus has backed up to the table, and when he turns to look at the balcony, Maria's gone.
Yeah, she's gone.
So she has jumped. And then we
Mhm.
see the police.
That's when it cuts to what I was talking about.
Yeah. What did you get from that? So we see the, like you said, kind of like the ghosts of Maria and Jesus, and
It
the
shows
baby
them
Cayetano.
together as they're all deceased now. And I thought it was very emotional, but kind of a beautiful ending. Like they're all together again. No more anxiety. But then it cuts to the brother in the back of the police car, and he's just completely shook. Like he's not right anymore. And then that's when it cuts to the cops or paramedics saying, he just won't stop repeating the coffee table. So I thought
Yeah.
I really liked that ending. I thought like it was sad but feel good at the same time seeing them together. But then seeing Carlos, it's like, another gut punch.
Yeah. I'll be completely honest. I think the whole final line about him repeating the coffee
Mhm.
table, I think that was a little heavy-handed.
Mhm.
I don't think we really needed that. We know that everything in this movie was caused by that stupid coffee table.
Right, right. Yeah, we didn't need that spoon fed to us.
But just seeing him in shock, speechless, and knowing that he's got to live with everything he's seen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's horrible. And plus, we haven't talked about this, but his girlfriend Cristina was pregnant.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
their
We
big
never brought that
announcement.
up
Yeah. I mean, why do you think we didn't bring that up?
because there's just there's so many other things going on that it's just background noise.
Yeah. It is background noise, and it does have meaning, but I think for me the biggest meaning of that was just pushing Jesus to a point where he was almost at his breaking point, where
Right, right.
Carlos he got up and went away, and he yelled at Cristina, and that's when Carlos followed him and said, "I'm going to deal with this, find out what's
Mhm.
going on." So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the coffee table, man.
I hope you are not. I hope you don't feel the emotions we felt watching it for our first watch.
No, I hope people do. No, oh, you
Yeah.
mean listening to this?
Yeah, I do think the way that we explained it, I think they are definitely going to pick up some of the emotions.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Like this is a movie that I can talk about over and over. Just it's been years since I've felt this way about a movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What did you think about the music? Because I always talk about the music.
Oh, I love the score in this.
It was an interesting score.
Very different.
Looks like it was composed by Esther Méndez. There's no soundtrack available that I've seen, but it seems like there were like some dramatic moments, a lot of quiet moments, but then also like these weird, like just moments of active music. I don't know how to describe it, but more dance type music.
And a lot of times the music is used to help build tension and suspense. They did not even need a score in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, that's true. But I always appreciate a good score. I didn't really notice it though.
Yeah, like I said, it was background noise. It's the last thing I was thinking of because of what was already going on in the movie. I didn't need a score to dramatize anything.
True. Very true. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to say, or are you ready to get to 3 questions?
I'm ready to get to 3 questions.
It's your first 3 questions, Colby.
I know. I'm so pumped.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
Well, okay. So this is a tough one, though. The first question, I even kind of hate to ask it with this movie. What did you think was the best kill or death in this movie? And you better not say the baby. Although
I will say.
What are you going to say?
I'll say Maria and Jesus because it ended their suffering.
That's a really good answer.
And it was off screen. I didn't need any gore or anything in this movie.
Yeah, you didn't need any more.
I didn't need on-screen kills. Just
any more gruesome deaths. You know what? I'm just going to go with what you said. I'm going with what you said.
Perfect.
Number 2, do you think the coffee table is scary?
It's scary thinking about that position. Absolutely. Scary as in jump scares, like, oh my God, this movie's so scary. No, not at all. But it's scary thinking about the situation.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking of this movie as a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do you think about that?
I agree how they have it labeled on Amazon as a drama / dark comedy. I didn't agree with the dark comedy my first watch, but second, I noticed a lot more of it because my first watch, like I knew it was there, but I didn't want to laugh or think of it in any way as that way.
Did they classify it as horror at all?
No.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Nope. It was drama / dark comedy.
Yeah, I think the horror, like you, I don't think it's scary, but there are very few movies that have filled me with as much anxiety as this movie has. So I would definitely call it a horror movie in that respect. But it's not a traditional, like you said. There's no ghosts, there's no slashers, there's no jump scares or anything. It's all just tension and anxiety, and that's the horror. And of course, what happens to the poor baby.
And it's an event that can happen every day, not saying by a coffee table, but just in general, like losing a child and like say the husband's gone out of the house or the wife's gone. Like, how are you going to react to that? Like, that's terrifying to think about.
It is terrifying, especially for you, since you're a dad of 3.
Yeah, 3.
So I can imagine I don't have any kids. So that's one thing I can't really put myself in that place fully.
And that's the thing though, either like when people ask, like, will it still resonate with me if I don't have a kid? I'm like, absolutely. Like, do you have nieces? Do you have nephews? Have you babysat before? Like this, you don't need to be a parent for this movie to affect you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that in a second because the final question is, Colby, did you have fun with horror?
My first watch, absolutely not.
You did your second watch a little bit.
A little bit, but that was more of because I watched it with my sister, so it was fun anticipating and waiting for her reactions.
Yeah.
But it's still hard to say, did I have fun with the movie? Because I still felt every emotion as I did the first watch.
Wow. Yeah. This is not a fun movie. I'm going to tell everybody that right now. I think this is a good movie. That's the thing. Andrew and I have always said that we never tell people not to see a movie. But I will say with this one, know what you're getting into.
Know the trigger warnings.
If you've listened to this entire episode and you haven't seen the movie, then you know what you're getting into. But
right.
Yeah, I would tell people if they hadn't listened to this, I would tell people, look, it deals with something bad that happens to a baby, a newborn child. It's a spoiler in a way, but it's also a trigger warning.
Mhm.
a big one. But make your own decision whether you want to watch it or not. As
Yeah.
Andrew did, he doesn't want to see it. I totally understand that.
I totally respect that.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm not smart. I didn't read the synopsis. I don't watch trailers. So I went in completely blind, had no idea what was going to happen. So I think that's another reason I was affected so much.
Yeah. And I will talk to Andrew about this a little bit when we talk next, because he does know what happens in this movie. He's read the synopsis.
And I'm glad my wife did. I'm extremely happy my wife did, because I think she's definitely a lot more prone to though. I mean, I hate stuff like that as well, but she's definitely a lot more prone than I am to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we watch everything together.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. Well, that's the coffee table. And that is our very first patron only episode. Everybody who's listening to this, huge thank you. Actually, I think this might come out before our next big episode.
Awesome.
We'll see. I'm hoping to put this out the Monday before our Abigail episode.
Okay. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Abigail.
Okay, cool. Me too. Andrew and I haven't even recorded that yet as of right now, but just letting people know, if you listen to this before the Abigail episode, if you're a patron, which you are, I'm sorry. I'm not even used to this, but I'm getting
No, you're fine.
But yes, you will get your personal thank you on that episode. But for now, just thank you so much for donating and being a patron and helping Andrew and I do what we do. And thank you, Colby. You, as we said, you're a patron. So
Yeah, absolutely. I love your guys' show. I'll do anything I can to support it. I share everything I can whenever I see it. But before we get off, I want to ask,
yes,
talking about this movie again and like talking scene by scene, did it take anything out of you again just by talking about it?
what do you mean? Take something out of me?
Like feeling those emotions again, like while you watch the movie. Now, obviously, it won't be as severe as watching it, but did you
Not
feel
really.
any emotions? Okay.
Not really. More than anything, talking about it made me appreciate the finer points
Okay.
of how they built the tension. I think when I mentioned this movie on Threads, I said
Mhm.
that the director manipulated my emotions like a skilled orchestra conductor.
Yeah, I thought he was just so brilliant with everything he did.
Yeah. So that's how I feel about this movie. But yeah, that's it. I did not feel anxiety talking to you.
Okay. Is this movie in your top 10 of the year?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think about that until later. It might
Later
be,
on.
actually. It might be. It might be. I mean, that's a lie. I do think about it. Infested is still number one.
Yes. I have a new number one.
Uh-oh. Tell me. Tell us.
Exuma.
Oh, I've heard about that.
I dropped a review on that this week. The way I described it was When Evil Lurks meets The Last Samurai.
You know what? I heard you say that. I watched part of that review.
It's a good one.
I think it's hitting, what is it, hitting Shudder?
It just hit Amazon Prime for rental.
Okay.
I think it's $5.99, $4.99 or something. But yeah, sorry, I keep going off topic asking you questions.
That's what we do here. Fun with horror, not strictly responsible structures with horror or whatever.
And I've been looking to having fun with horror. I'm so happy you asked me to come on this episode.
Well, thank you again for coming on the episode and talking to me about this movie. I wanted to talk to somebody about it. I'm glad you were here to do so. Thank you for being on our first patron only episode. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, anytime. I will gladly come on your show anytime. I still plan on having you on ours soon, so
Just let me know.
absolutely.
Everybody out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for being a patron to Fun with Horror. We hope you enjoy every other episode we do, and stay tuned because there will be more of this in this Patreon. Thank you so much, everybody. We love you. Colby loves you.
Thank you guys.
Tell them you love them, Colby.
Oh, I love you guys. I hope you always have as much fun with horror as I do.
There you go. Perfect ending. Bye.
Bye.
Jess, Marie, do me a favor for your own good. Put your name in your books right now before they get mixed up and you don't know whose is whose. Because someday, believe it or not, you'll go 15 rounds over who's going to get this coffee table. This stupid, wagon wheel, Roy Rogers garage sale coffee table.